Welcome back to Everybody Try. Today we are talking everyone's favorite of the three disciplines, swimming. I thought I would make a video that's just about swimming because I think swimming often is, or at least feels like, the hardest of the three disciplines to improve in. At least I feel like that's true for me. So I thought I would talk about the three things that I'm doing in 2025 to try to improve my swimming. Okay, number one, this is I think the biggest one, which is consistent swimming. I feel like I struggled a lot when I first started triathlon training with getting consistent with my swimming. And I feel like it's sort of a chicken or the egg thing. When I feel like I'm not improving, that makes me not want to swim. When I don't swim a lot, I don't improve. A vicious cycle. So here are a couple of things that I'm doing to help with consistency with my swimming. So these are, I guess, subparts. The first thing is swimming with friends or having some people to swim with. So it doesn't have to be friends. This could look like you going to a master's group, something that I have done in the past. Or it could look like your triathlon team organizing swims together. Or it could just be you asking some friends to go to the pool with you. My two friends, Amy and Meg, that you have seen in a bunch of my videos, I actually met at the pool. I showed up to the pool one day and all the lanes were full, but Amy and Meg were swimming, and Amy saw my TTL, that Triathlon Life, water bottle and said something to me like, oh my God, TTL in the wild. We bonded over TTL, realized we were both training for triathlon, and the rest is sort of history. Have become two of my closest friends and also people that I train with all the time. There are some days, whether it's early in the morning or after work, where I feel like I really don't want to go to the pool, and sometimes all that gets me to the pool is knowing that I already promised Meg or Amy that I would be there. And I think same is true for them. There have definitely been some days where I've thought if it weren't for me making plans to meet up with them, I would not do this swim. So having pool friends really, really helps. And it also just makes it more fun. The other thing that I do to stay consistent with my swimming is I got a pair of swimming headphones. I use the Aftershocks brand. This is not sponsored, obviously. I think there are other brands, but that's just the one that I use. I have the one that is MP3 only, so you actually have to download, whether it's like music or audiobooks or whatever you're putting on there, you have to download it on there. It's not Bluetooth. Obviously Bluetooth doesn't work great in the water, but my understanding is that the newest version of the Open Swim Aftershocks does have a Bluetooth option. Upside of getting those is that you can also use them for other things like running and biking as just like normal Bluetooth headphones. So I personally feel like this is worth the investment. They're not crazy expensive. I think they're like under $200. My mom just bought a pair and I think they were $180. And what I do is usually download audiobooks. I try to download audiobooks that I'm interested in, but also have already read, so that if I miss something, it's not the end of the world. Because sometimes when you're swimming and you're listening to an audiobook, like you don't really hear everything, and sometimes you want to be focused on other things. So like, for example, I started out by downloading the entire Harry Potter series because I've read those books so many times, but it had been a while since I had read them. And so it was kind of fun because obviously I know what happens, but it was interesting enough to hold my attention because it had been a while. And there's 7 books, so it took me a while to get through those. So I personally like using either audiobooks or music because I feel like it helps keep me in the pool for longer. And I think that's an important part of getting consistent, staying consistent, and getting better at swimming, is staying in the pool for longer than feels totally fun or comfortable, for me at least. What happens for me is I'm good for like 45 minutes, and then I start getting kind of antsy or bored, or maybe I get anxious because I'm thinking about the day ahead and starting to worry about that. If I have an audiobook on or just music that I'm enjoying, I'm much more likely to stay in the pool for the next 15 to 30 minutes, making my swims 1 hour to an hour and 15 minutes usually. So I find that is really important for me, because otherwise I'm just going to want to get out of the pool around the 45-minute mark. Although I will say, I feel like that is a muscle that you can exercise and get stronger, because when I first started training for triathlons and I was training for sprints, my point at which I would start getting antsy and want to get out of the pool was at like 10 minutes. So we've come a long way for sure. So the second thing that I actually already did in 2025 to try to improve my swimming that I feel like had a huge impact was going to an in-person swim camp. This kind of goes hand in hand with having a coach. So I'm not including that as a separate thing I'm doing in 2025 because I've already been doing it. But I think if you are not doing it already, if you don't already have a swim specific coach, I think it is worth it. I have a triathlon coach who is amazing and who I love, and that's Kayla. I'll put her information down below. She's amazing. She's a pro triathlete and also a coach, and she has been incredible for my overall development as a triathlete. I also really liked the idea of working with a swim specific coach. Obviously, there's a financial aspect to this that it's just not feasible for everyone to have a separate swim coach. I have found that for me personally, it has been really important because my swim is not good. I wasn't on a swim team as a kid. I used to like swim as a kid, but more like messing around in the pool or the ocean, not actual lap swimming. And so for me, nothing about swimming, well, I shouldn't say nothing. For me, lap swimming, freestyle swimming does not come naturally. I am not naturally fast. So I felt like getting a swim specific coach has been really worth it for me. My swim specific coach is Cody with Front Pack Swim. I'll put their information down here below as well. They are an awesome resource. The coaches are based, I think, all over the world. I know Cody, who's the coach I mainly work with, is based in Canada. Essentially, he offers weekly video chats. So you film yourself in the pool, send it to him, and then he goes over your video with you weekly. Just in case Cody is watching this, I will own up to the fact that I don't always make the weekly videos, but I try, and that feedback is really important and it's really helpful. But there is just something about in-person coaching and in-person feedback. And so Cody and Front Pack Swim in general do in-person swim camps in different locations multiple times a year. So they announced a couple of months ago that they were going to be holding an in-person swim camp in San Diego in February of 2025. And I love San Diego. It's in a reasonable distance from Denver, and I really wanted to go to an in-person swim camp and see how that might improve my swim or help me with swimming. And I am so glad that I did, because it was such an incredible experience. I was so nervous going into it. I really had no idea what to expect. He had sent out the schedule a couple weeks before, and we basically were scheduled to swim twice a day, 3 days in a row. That felt really intimidating. And just showing up at a camp where I didn't know anyone felt pretty intimidating. Even my coach, I'd never met in person. So I felt really intimidated going into it. But as soon as I got to the pool that first day, everyone was so amazing and friendly, and it ended up being an incredible experience. I had so much fun. And beyond that, I definitely dropped time. So like I said, I'm a very slow swimmer. I would say in the pool, prior to this swim camp, I was probably averaging like close to 240, 245 per 100 meters. That wasn't my fastest time, like in an all-out 100, but if I were swimming kind of over the course of the hour 15 minutes I'm swimming, that would was probably about my pace, give or take a couple of seconds. Especially towards the end of my swim, my form would just start to break down, and I would consistently be seeing like 245, 250, sometimes 3 minutes per 100. Obviously, paces are all relative, but most people would consider that pretty slow. And it felt like it was hard to get that number down, right? So to get an all-out 100 PB seemed much easier and more feasible, and that was happening. Like my 100 best time was coming down, but over the course of swimming for an hour, it felt like that pace, that average pace, was not coming down. Since the swim camp, I noticed that I am swimming on average more like 230, 235 per 100 meters, which obviously is an incredible drop. Just having that in person, sort of right there coaching, and also one thing that I thought was really helpful was the coach being able to see what happens to my stroke when fatigue sets in. So when my stroke starts to break down, what is the exact way that it starts to break down, and how can we correct that? So that swim camp was super helpful. Also, San Diego is incredibly beautiful, and I did take some clips of some runs and a bike ride that I did there, and I haven't gotten to share them, so I'm gonna drop them here because San Diego is an incredible place. It's so beautiful, and I did the most beautiful bike ride there, so drop in the clips here. Okay, the third and final thing that I am doing this year to try to get better at swimming is strength and prehab. I think I'm going to make a whole separate video about this at some point, but I have been desperately trying to stick to a strength training routine, and it has been very difficult. I feel like maybe other triathletes can relate to this, but when you are busy and you look at your training plan and it's like something's got to be cut, it's always strength. And I know, I mean, I don't think my PT watches this. At least I really hope she doesn't. And also for my coach, Kayla, so sorry to be admitting this, but strength is always the first thing to go. And I know that that's not right. I know that that's not how I should be doing this. And I've been trying to work on it. But I just feel like because it's not swim, bike, or run, it's just the first thing that I tend to cut when I get busy and I need to cut something from my week. However, no more. I am committed to sticking to a strength training plan. The last couple of weeks, I have been sticking to strength and sticking to a PT/prehab routine. So for me, I am doing most of my strength training out in my garage, actually all of my strength training out there. I have a squat rack out there, which is awesome, but I also feel like I wanted free weights as well, which I just kept putting off buying because they're kind of expensive, and I just felt like, but I could go to the gym and I pay for a gym membership. But the reality was I'm not making it to the gym for strength training. Like what I have realized is that it needs to be as easy as possible for me to get the strength training done. It needs to be a low bar to entry. There need to be minimal barriers to me getting the strength training done. So I invested in some free weight dumbbells off of Amazon, and I have been much more consistent with my strength training. I'm really hoping that training and gaining more strength in my upper body and also my core will help with swimming. And I'm also doing, well, I do PT exercises for my knee specifically right now, but I've also started incorporating some prehab exercises for my shoulders. And so basically what that means is my shoulders are not injured right now, but my shoulders the last few months have felt like on the cusp almost of injury, where I feel like I keep getting close to injury, and then I kind of back off and it goes away, but I don't want to take any chances with that. And so my swim coach is having me do some prehab exercises a few times a week just to help prevent any shoulder injuries, essentially. So that's it. Those are my 3 things that I am doing to try to improve my swimming in 2025. Obviously, I shared there already has been some improvement this year, but ultimately we just need to see how that translates to racing. Not to say it doesn't matter to get faster in the pool, but if it doesn't translate to a race, then for my purposes it sort of doesn't matter, right? So I'm really curious to see how this will all translate in my first race of the year, which is coming up now in less than 2 months. It is mid-end of March as I'm filming this now. So it's less than 2 months to the race. And so we'll kind of have to see how it all shakes out, but I'll keep you updated on how the swimming is progressing. And if you have any thoughts, things that you're doing to improve your swimming, drop a comment down below. I'd love to read them. All right, see you in the next one.